Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is bringing the fight to the mainstream media. We've got this breaking news. President elect Trump is suing the New York Times, CBS, and other major media outlets for $10 billion. That's according to The Guardian. Kind of ironic there. Trump's team is alleging false and defamatory statements and called the New York Times a full throated mouthpiece of the Democratic Party. Now, Trump's chances of winning this as is are very small because when it comes to cases like this, you're talking about slander and libel. With someone like Trump, as famous as he is, it's very, very hard to win a lawsuit like this. I will say you could potentially investigate them with discovery, and what Trump would need is his lawyers would need to find something, whether it's in documents, whether it's in text messages, emails, within the New York Times, within CBS, that to where they knew statements were false and they still said them anyways to hurt Trump. That's the way you do it. There's obviously a few other ways as well. I will say when it comes to CBS, it is pretty remarkable what they did with that 60 Minutes interview. Now, you really can't sue for that, but that is just pure election manipulation with how they handled that. And I'm sure you guys have seen it. If you haven't seen it, Kamala Harris just simply did not answer a question. She sounded like a complete loon. They asked her a real question, like a legitimate question for the election, and she couldn't answer it. And they edited it out and put one of her other answers over it. And so I'm sure he's very pissed off at CBS. But I think this is more to send a message. $10 billion, it's kind of funny. But I don't think anything's going to come of it unless there is discovery and they're able to find something that says there's collusion and that they purposefully knew there was misinformation or fake info, and they went with it anyways to try and damage Trump and his electoral chances. So that would be my take when it comes to that. You also do have Donald Trump with Mike Johnson at Mar-a-Lago. You know, people were worried about Mike Johnson. To me, Mike Johnson seems like a yes man. Just maybe, I don't know if he's a Trump mouthpiece. He's not ultra MAGA, but I think he'll do what Trump wants 95% of the time. He was defending Trump going into the election. I just saw a new headline that he was defending Matt Gaetz, which is really bullish in terms of we know Gaetz was like the one cabinet appointment where people were like, oh, this is terrible. I mean, liberals will freak out about everything, but Gaetz was the one that really got him mad because Gaetz is a bulldog and Trump wants that. And we'll see if that ends up happening. But Mike Johnson, he's a yes man. I wouldn't be too worried about him. I know there was the argument, should they replace the speaker? It's not going to happen. And then you've got this in all competitive Senate races where the Republican won. The Republican underperformed Trump, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Montana. Yeah, Montana was closer than I thought. I think he only won. The last time I checked, it was by 7, but maybe it got closer. I don't know. But it is remarkable, and this is why Republicans struggle so much when it comes to the midterms. They just can't get people out to vote when Trump is not on the ballot, and it is a big issue. I think 2028 will be a little bit different. It'll be better because you'll have Trump very likely endorsing J.D. Vance or whoever the nominee ends up being. The presidential election everyone knows about. The midterms are less known, and you've got more of a highly educated, like liberal, white snob type electorate, which is a real big problem for Republicans. That's another reason why you can't really compare midterms to general elections. The midterm polling is normally more accurate than the general election polling. That's not to say the general election polling was necessarily bad this cycle. I think it was pretty good. It wasn't perfect, but it's never going to be perfect. But when it comes to something like this, Ohio Moreno was a weak candidate. He won by 4. Trump won by 11 and a half. If although I will say Sherrod Brown was an incumbent, like running for his fourth term, but still you're underperforming Trump by 7 points. Pennsylvania was closer. McCormick underperformed Trump by like 2 points. Montana, I don't really remember. Hovde underperforms Trump. He ends up losing Wisconsin. Michigan, the Senate seat is lost there with Rogers. And so this is a big problem for Republicans, and we'll have to see how they try and fix this. But it is a general thing we see with these midterms and Republicans just simply not drawing like they should, at least you would think. We saw what happened in 2022. And I don't know if people just don't know about midterms. People don't think they matter. They think maybe only the presidential races matter. But it is a big problem that I'm sure they're going to put a high emphasis on, especially with what happened in 2022, where they did become the favorite in many of the close states. They ended up losing a lot of them. I do also think 2022, you can't discount Roe v. Wade. That happening in the summer of 2022 and then the midterms happening, it had a massive impact on that entire election cycle. So when it comes to this is just more of the same. I do understand some of the more, I guess, moderate or establishment Republicans thinking, well, you could potentially get someone that appeals to independents a little bit more than Trump. But the problem with that is with the trade off. I mean, like, you take a look at a state like Virginia, Youngkin wins, Trump loses, although that you're comparing different things. You're comparing a governor's race versus a presidential race with more people voting, and Virginia is more liberal. But like Youngkin versus Trump in that state, you've got more people that are potentially just barely on the left that would vote for a Youngkin that maybe won't vote for a Trump. But the problem is there's the payoff is not there. Youngkin is not going to drive the Republicans that really don't vote. He's not going to drive them to the polls like Trump will. And that's why with Trump, there's always record turnout, especially among the rural places. And Trump's able to galvanize people against the media. That's something that he did very well. And it energizes people. People see Trump as their leader. And it's this patriotism that a lot of other Republicans have not been able to capture. And that's the trade-off you get with Trump. And all of these senators are underperforming Trump in every single state, basically. It's not even close. So the idea that Trump, people saying I mean, I don't think anyone's saying it anymore because Trump really performed well. The liberals were trying to argue, well, Trump lost every year except 2016, because of the midterms in 2018, 2020, and then 2022. And they said, well, Trump's a bad candidate. When you look at 2018, normally when you get into office, you're not going to perform well in the midterms right after you get in. The only reason the Democrats did in 2022 was because of Roe v. Wade. But you're not going to perform well in the midterms in general right after you get in office. And then in 2022, it's Roe v. Wade. In 2020, that election is what it is. But 2024, Trump ends up winning. He wins all the swing states. He wins the popular vote probably by about 1.8, 1.9. I know they really can't say that. They just go to like disinformation and misinformation. Well, that's a total cop out. You can't use that. So what about Republicans losing in 2028? I'll predict the Republican to win in 2028. I'll predict JD Vance to win, and then I'll say, well, if he loses, I didn't get it wrong. It was misinformation. It was disinformation. You can't say that. That's absurd. There's always there. You know what? There was bad misinformation in 2020. Biden still won. We remember that. So when it comes to these Senate races and these other Republicans, they just can't galvanize people the way Trump can. When you're talking about midterms where Trump's not on the ballot, I do think 2022 there was a different component to where Trump was not in the White House and it seemed like people were tired of Trump. But now it seems like everything is energized again with Elon, with Vivek, with Tulsi Gabbard, with RFK Jr. And I do think Republicans should do a little bit better when it comes to the midterms in 2026. There's going to be a very high emphasis on getting people to turn out and telling people how important the midterms are when it comes to House and Senate leadership. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.